My name is Lee Richardson and I'm pleased to be here talking about teamwork and about highly effective teams from my perspective as a sports psychologist and as someone who has worked in professional sport for over 35 years. And so I'd like to talk to you about a model of 5 C's or 5 C words. And in a sense, to look at these 5 kind of qualities or characteristics as when they work in conjunction with each other, really create a kind of amplification effect, a kind of spiral of positivity, if you like. And we're going to go through those kind of step by step. We're going to talk about co-effectiveness, cohesion, about the culture, about the contribution that people make, and the commitment to the cause. And the first C of the 5C model that I want to talk about is the idea of co-effectiveness. Now there's another C word that is not in this model that I think lots of people associate with successful teams, and that's confidence. And I have a bit of a problem with confidence because in my experience that word has kind of got in the way of lots of performers and lots of people believing that if they don't feel confident, they can't perform a task. But in actual fact, confidence can be disruptive to performance in terms of overconfidence. I've known lots of teams and individuals become too overconfident, feeling that everything's going to be fine, and in actual fact, it's not. So confidence doesn't really help us much. But co-effectiveness relates to a term called efficacy. Now, efficacy or self-efficacy was a term coined by a psychologist called Albert Bandura. And he introduced this concept of self-efficacy, which is really what I think confidence is supposed to mean. And related to self-efficacy is co-effective efficacy. And that's where teams of people can work together. So whether that's a manager of a football team and a team of players, or a head chef and a group of other chefs and other people who work in the restaurant. So co-effectiveness is really a measure of an effective team. It's really, I think, the pinnacle. And also part of that then is collective efficacy, which is the belief the team has in each other. The C word that I think is really important when it comes to team is the idea of cohesion. So sports psychologists talk a lot about cohesion. The more cohesive a team, the more likely it is to be successful. And there are 3 kind of elements to this that I want to sort of mention. So the connection that people have socially can be important. So, away from the kitchen, if you like, or away from work, away from tasks, and how well you get along as individuals, as people, that can be important. It's not quite as important as the other type of focus, which is, or connection, which is on the task. So being connected on the task and doing the task well is more important than actually getting on along or socially. But the two together can be really powerful. And a collective team ethos or values is another kind of bond that creates cohesion, and the cohesion that sort of drives successful teams. The next C word, shall we say, is culture. And in my work, one of the key things for me is to develop a mastery focus. Now, a mastery focus is a focus on just striving for constant improvement. So reflecting on what you've done and how you can improve, but not trying to achieve a perfection that's unrealistic. Now, I know that that's important to be as good as we can be, but thinking that we have to deliver perfection constantly can be really challenging for our mental health as much as anything, and for relationships within an environment. A mastery focused environment from the top, one that recognizes that people make mistakes and that's okay as long as we learn from it, that's a really important element of a culture. Fairness is another really key important thing to have within any environment, so that people feel that they're going to be treated fairly and there's not one rule for one and one rule for another. That's another really important element of a strong culture that will promote a highly effective team. And again, mental health can be affected if one doesn't feel as though one's being fairly treated in one's environment. The final element would be sort of forthrightness and appropriateness, I would say, which is kind of no bullshit, no BS, but honest assessments with people, but not unfair and not abusive. What the co-effectiveness, the cohesion and the culture will bring will be a sense of contribution. Now, this is really important for anyone to feel like they're contributing to something. We all want to belong. that is a well-known psychological, if you like, factor that we all share. We want to belong to something. We want to identify with others, and we want to identify with something that's worthwhile and rewarding. Culture that encourages that contribution and makes people feel like they're contributing is going to be a successful one. The final C in this little model is the commitment to the cause. And if all the other 4 parts of this model are in place, then the commitment to the cause is going to be there. And that's kind of commitment and shared purpose and shared success on what you're doing, what you're providing, what your brand is, what your expertise is, how you function every day. If you have that commitment to the cause from everybody in the team, then that's going to be, that's going to fuel success. I suppose as well, how you share that success in the industry is something for the industry to think about. Maybe in the past that's not necessarily been equal, but that's not for me to decide, it's for the industry itself. But those 5 C's of co-effectiveness, cohesion, culture, contribution and commitment to the cause will go a long way to creating the kind of environments and restaurants that you would like. So if you want to check out aim4.com, maybe you can get some hints and tips, and certainly I'd be happy to listen to anyone or be in contact with anyone who wants to chat further on that. Be lovely to talk to you all. Use the 5C model by all means, it's yours to take on board. And my name's Lee Richardson, and thank you very much.